If you've ever felt like someone slowly stopped respecting you and you couldn't explain exactly when it changed, this message is for you because shifts in relationships rarely happen overnight. They happen quietly, through small moments that go unaddressed, through boundaries that were never defined, through behaviors that were tolerated instead of clarified. This isn't about blaming anyone. It's about understanding how dynamics form and how to protect your self-respect early, instead of trying to recover it later. In the early stages of dating, structure matters more than intensity. Attraction can create excitement. Chemistry can create momentum. But structure determines whether respect lasts. And structure begins with boundaries. One of the most overlooked areas early on is financial transparency. There's nothing wrong with being successful. There's nothing wrong with being generous. But revealing too much financial detail too quickly can unintentionally shift the focus of connection. When conversations become centered around income, assets, or financial capacity too early, the relationship can move from emotional discovery into practical evaluation. Healthy relationships grow in layers: trust first, character second, shared values third. Practical matters belong later, when mutual commitment and understanding are already forming. It's not about secrecy, it's about pacing. Generosity is meaningful when it comes from stability, not when it's used to create approval. If you step into the role of provider before partnership is established, the connection may quietly shift from mutual exploration to expectation. A strong boundary here is simple. Allow emotional connection to develop before financial access becomes part of the dynamic. Another critical area is subtle disrespect. Disrespect is rarely dramatic in the beginning. It doesn't always look like shouting or obvious hostility. Often it appears in small comments, dismissive jokes, interruptions, or public remarks that lower your status slightly. These moments feel minor. That's why they're easy to ignore. But small patterns shape long-term dynamics. If someone jokes at your expense repeatedly and you smile through it while feeling uncomfortable, you're not being mature, you're avoiding clarity. Healthy communication doesn't require confrontation. It requires calm correction. A simple, composed response like, "I'm not comfortable with that," resets the tone without escalating tension. Boundaries don't need aggression, they need consistency. When you calmly address something once, you teach others how to treat you. When you repeatedly tolerate behavior that bothers you, you teach them that your standards are flexible. Respect grows where clarity exists. Another important boundary involves time. Early excitement often leads people to rearrange their lives around someone new, canceling plans, skipping commitments, becoming constantly available. It feels like enthusiasm, but over-availability can unintentionally communicate a lack of personal structure. Healthy attraction thrives when two individuals already have direction in their lives. Purpose is attractive. Discipline is attractive. Self-priority is attractive. When you protect your schedule, you're not playing games. You're demonstrating that your life has momentum. If someone suggests a last-minute plan and you already have commitments, honoring those commitments shows reliability, not disinterest. Consistency in how you manage your time signals maturity. When your availability feels intentional rather than automatic, your presence gains value. Another area that requires balance is emotional intimacy. Deep conversations can feel powerful early on. Sharing past pain, discussing trauma, venting about former relationships. Emotional openness is healthy when it's mutual and paced appropriately. But becoming someone's emotional stabilizer before there's commitment can blur roles. There's a difference between listening and absorbing. You can care without caring. You can be supportive without becoming responsible for someone else's emotional regulation. If you consistently stay up late solving problems, calming anxiety, or acting as a therapist in the early stages, the dynamic can shift away from partnership and toward emotional dependency. Healthy bonding forms through mutual investment. When both people contribute emotionally, closeness strengthens naturally. But when one person carries the majority of emotional weight early, imbalance forms. Balance protects attraction. Empathy is strength. Overextension is self-neglect. Maintaining emotional pacing preserves both respect and stability. Another moment where many people lose their grounding is when communication shifts, replies slow down, energy changes, effort feels inconsistent. The instinct is to respond by increasing effort, more messages, more reassurance, more planning. But reacting to distance with pressure often magnifies imbalance. Sometimes space is natural. Sometimes it reflects shifting priorities. Sometimes it simply reflects life circumstances. Panic rarely improves clarity. When you remain steady instead of escalating effort, you allow reality to reveal itself. If the connection is mutual, consistency returns organically. If it isn't, you gain clarity without losing your self-respect. Chasing energy that is pulling away rarely restores it. Stability, on the other hand, preserves dignity regardless of outcome. All of these boundaries share one purpose: protecting your identity while building connection. Healthy dating isn't about controlling outcomes, it's about ensuring you don't abandon yourself in the process. When you guard financial access appropriately, you protect long term clarity. When you calmly address disrespect, you protect dignity. When you value your time, you protect direction. When you pace emotional intimacy, you protect balance. When you stay grounded during uncertainty, you protect self-respect. These boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They naturally align you with people who respect structure and maturity, and they naturally distance you from dynamics that require overgiving to survive. Boundaries do not make you harder to love. They make it possible for someone to love the real version of you, not the version who overextends to gain approval. There's an important distinction here. Confidence is not dominance. Calmness is not coldness. Boundaries are not control. They are alignment. When you require more discipline from yourself, in your emotions, your time, your reactions, you stop needing to demand more from others. Respect begins internally. If you respect your time, others learn to. If you respect your standards, others understand them. If you respect your emotional balance, others feel safer around you. And if someone resists healthy boundaries, that resistance reveals incompatibility early, which is a gift, not a loss. Clarity saves time. Trying to earn respect after losing it is exhausting. Maintaining it from the beginning is simple. It requires structure, consistency, self-awareness. Most dating advice focuses on tactics: what to say, when to text, how to impress. But sustainable attraction isn't built on tactics. It's built on self-control, when your reactions are measured, when your time is intentional, when your generosity is paced, when your emotions are grounded. You don't need to force anything. You don't need to compete. You don't need to overprove. You simply show up as someone stable, and stability is rare. If there's one message to take from this, it's this: you don't gain strength by demanding better treatment. You gain strength by enforcing better standards for yourself. Boundaries aren't about keeping people out. They're about ensuring that whoever stays meets you at your level of maturity. And when you approach relationships this way, you stop fearing loss, because you know you're not sacrificing yourself to keep someone. You're building connection without abandoning your center. That's not coldness. That's grounded confidence. And grounded confidence changes everything. If this resonated with you, reflect on which area you may need to strengthen: time, emotional pacing, communication, or internal stability. Growth doesn't require aggression. It requires awareness and consistency. The goal isn't control. The goal is balance. And balance begins with boundaries.